Hi, welcome to part one of My Toxic Mother-in-Law Hates Me Because I Married Her Son and She Couldn't. All seriousness, I'm making a 5-part series to why my husband and I went no contact with his family, specifically his mother, and how we got to that point. We've been no contact with them for over 2 years at this point, and it has been amazing. And for all you toxic people out there, this isn't something that we decided on a whim. We went through a lot of trauma and issues with this woman before we got to this point, so I don't want to hear the whole you chose hate over love. Just don't even waste your energy. This first part is going to be more so like the beginning when I first got with my husband and a lot of the red flags that I noticed. And in part two, I'm going to be going very deep and give a lot of examples and parts of my story of her manipulation and all of her narcissistic traits and just how poorly she treated me and my husband. During this part, I will talk about like the thing that sent me over the edge that I literally could not deal with her anymore because it was so evil, but we'll get there in a minute. Alright, so here is the backstory. My husband and I have been married for about 5.5 years. We have been no contact with his family and her for 2.5 years. If you do the math there, I was with my husband and we were dating for 3 years before we got to this point. We got married in September of 2023. We decided to go no contact with them a month after we got married in October of 2023. In the first kind of year of our relationship, I didn't really have many interactions with his family, especially his mom, but there were a few red flags that I want to talk about because immediately when I met her and found out more things about her, I got that gut feeling like this woman is not safe. One, this might not be true with everybody, but his mother never left the house. She didn't work, she didn't do anything, she never left the house. She didn't go anywhere. She didn't have any friends. It was just really weird to me. And I'm an introvert, so I get it. Home is my safe place. But when I say she never left the house, she never left the house. Had no friends. Didn't really hang out with any family or see family or speak highly of her own family. She talked trash about everybody constantly. Second, if you know a narcissist, you know this. She had those black, narcissist, soulless eyes. You look at her and there is nothing in her eyes. It is literally like you're looking through a black hole. She had no soul, she had no heart, she had no empathy towards other. She only cared about herself and nobody else. A lot of my trauma was from like year 2 and 3 of being with my husband, especially year 3. But some things I noticed in the very beginning is that she would tell my husband lies about me or things that I told her, and then she would also tell me lies that my husband supposedly told her. And this was a theme throughout our whole relationship. And I know with toxic mother-in-laws, a lot of them are very outspoken and they talk trash and do whatever in front of their son to their girlfriend or their wife. But his mom was unique in the way of she liked to do everything behind the scenes. What that meant was cornering me and getting me alone and telling me awful weird things, texting me very awful things as if I wouldn't show that to my husband. I get my husband alone when I wasn't around and telling him weird things and trying to manipulate him into not being with me. One of the biggest red flags of that first year that I was with him was she told me not once, not twice, not 3 times that she could never get close to me, never have a relationship with me because she was so heartbroken over the girlfriend my husband had in high school that she just couldn't get over it and she couldn't get to know me because of that. Mind you, he was 17/18 years old when he broke up with this girl because he went to boot camp and did not miss her. And we are now 21, 22 years old and she's still so heartbroken over the high school relationship. So if that doesn't scream toxic, manipulative, narcissist behavior, I don't know what does. But if you don't see it yet, trust me, you will see it. If not by the end of this part, but by part 2 and then definitely by part 5. Let me
You can tell mothers like this, they hate when they can't have control over the woman that their son's with. You know, everybody's watching this know why the mother liked the first one over this one. That other one probably was a kiss ass.
A kid. They were in high school.
Right.
Easier to manipulate.
Yeah, it's just weird how parents, as mothers, because I don't think fathers really be this invested in their kids' like dating lives. Understandably, because you can't control what's going on. You only can give advice. But sometimes, I don't know why, but mothers are they're just different when it comes to sons. I mean, I don't know specifically because, motherless here. I love, she's cool. But, I didn't have this type of problems. But just knowing that there's mothers out there that would, you just go ahead and date your son at this point. It's kind of weird. It's weird as hell. Like, I wasn't knocking the fact that she don't talk to her family and that she's always in the house. Because, sometimes, protect your peace. But if you are this evil, it's a reason why you are in the house, man. It's not that serious. Like, what did this woman do to her to make her not like her this much?
Love her son.
Right.
Point out all the mother flaws. They hate that. And it's so disgusting that the mother is literally spreading lies to separate them. Telling her one thing, telling the son one thing. Like, obviously, if they come together and they talk about it, they're going to be like, I never said that. So who's the common denominator? It all leads back to the mother. Like, you were lying. Hello, we're both here vouching that you lied.
Like, this is weird behavior. I'm not gonna lie. If you act like this with your son, No, stop that because that's crazy.
I'll tell you the catalyst moment, the biggest moment, the most evil, toxic moment I had with her that finally made me tell my husband, I am done. You can do what you want, but I will not see or speak to her ever again. One time in March of 2023, we were at my husband's parents' house. My husband still lived there at the time. My husband was in the kitchen making him and I dinner. I was just in the kitchen hanging out. His mother comes into the kitchen, asks me if she can talk to me, and wants me to follow her downstairs. It was like a split level house. I already had so much trauma with this woman at this point. There had been so many awful, evil things that she had done to me that I immediately was so anxious. But I had tried with her over and over and over and over and over again, and I knew my husband and I were about to get engaged, so I was really trying to just be neutral and to not have an issue with this lady. So my heart is racing. I'm literally scared for my life. That might sound dramatic, but if you've gone through this, you know that is not dramatic. Follow her down there. And we began talking about a situation when my husband graduated the police academy. And this is another situation where she was toxic, but I won't get too into it. But basically at his police academy a couple months prior to that, me and my mom had went to support him, and then some of his immediate family went to support him. I knew they literally do not care about him. They don't support him. She has been manipulating and treating him horrible his whole life since his childhood and lying to him. But when he's done graduating, my mom and I go up, we're all excited for him, like we're taking pictures with him. Then, after a long time, they come up. And his mom is taking pictures of him with like the couple siblings that came, and they're all getting in a family photo, and they're doing this and they're doing that. Not once does she ask me to be in a photo, take a photo of us, acknowledge my presence literally at all. She had never met my mother. I did not want my family to meet her and talk to her, and they didn't want to either. They were completely fine with that because I had been telling my mom about everything, which will be important to note when I talk in my next part about a lot of the manipulation, especially at our wedding. Anyway, so she did not acknowledge my presence, didn't speak to me, didn't include me in any of the photos or act like I was a part of the family, even though we had been dating for almost 3 years. She didn't know this, but about to get engaged. Anyway, so we're downstairs talking. She's trying to manipulate me to think that I'm the issue because parents should never ever acknowledge the children, that I should have came running up to her with my arms open and acknowledged at the graduation. Mind you, when they came up, I wasn't even with my husband. I was talking to some of his friends, and then when we came over to join them for the pictures, she literally would not look my way. So we're talking about this, and she's getting really heated and upset over it. So she's mad that she can't manipulate me. She tells me, well, Donovan told me that he doesn't even want to be with you, so that's why I didn't want you in any of the photos, because I knew you wouldn't be around for long. Mind you, I already know that he bought me an engagement ring and that at any moment in the next couple months, he is going to propose to me. And I didn't want to tell her this because he didn't want his family to know, because he was already kind of getting over them. But I felt like I needed to defend myself in a little bit, because how are you going to tell me that he doesn't want me when I know he just bought a ring? So I defend myself, and I'm like, really? Because he literally just bought an engagement ring and we're about to be engaged. And in that moment, she went from her normal self to straight evil. Her eyes got black, her face got red. I literally feel like I saw the devil come out of her. It was like the weirdest experience I've ever seen in my life. And then she goes to tell me, I'll spare some of the details because once again, this is my personal life, but she goes to tell me that my husband's actually cheating on me. And she can't tell me this girl's name, she can't tell me nothing, but he's cheating on me, and she knows it, and I can't be with him because he's cheating on me. And so I'm getting really anxious because, like, I know this woman lies and manipulates whatever, but I can't tell if she's actually telling the truth. And I'm like, if I'm about to marry this guy, like, if she's even telling a little bit of the truth, like, I need to know. So I'm getting all anxious, I'm getting worked up. I'm not crying because I will not give her that benefit. But I'm asking her, I'm like, well, what's her name? Like, I can't check if I don't know her name, like, blah, 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 blah. Finally, she gives me a name. And we end the conversation with her saying, like, I'm so sorry I had to be the one to tell you this. Like, I know you're heartbroken, but you just can't be with him if he's cheating on you. You deserve better than that. So I go upstairs. My husband's about to be done cooking dinner. I'm like, hey, can I check your phone? He's like, yeah, of course. Like, what's going on? And I'm like, legs bouncing, heart racing. I'm trying not to cry. My face, I could feel, is like heated and red. And I'm like, we'll talk about it in a minute. So I'm going through everything, every social media, even dumb stuff like Pinterest, all of his text messages. I'm searching up her name, literally nothing. I cannot find a single thing. And trust me, I'm a sleuth. So I was looking at everything. We go out to his room. I'm like, who is so-and-so? Guess who it is, guys? Yup, his girlfriend from high school that she can't get over. He was so confused. He was so mad. I was mad. Long story short, it was a very traumatic night. And if you can't tell already, she was straight up lying. This was the moment that I could not take anymore. And one more example I will give of how my body reacted to her when I was around her was 1 month after our wedding, when I told you guys we went no contact. We went no contact after this situation. They really wanted us to come over. I did not want to. I did not feel comfortable with it. But Once again, I'm a good person and I was really trying with these people because we had just got married. We go over there. And I don't know if other people experience this, but sometimes when I have high amounts of stress, I get cold sores on my lips. And to prove how not anxious I get, I haven't had a cold sore in like years before this. We're on our way to their house and I'm so anxious and terrified to see her because of not only the situation I just told you about, but all of the very traumatic things I went through that I'll discuss more next part, that I started to feel a tingle on my lip. And I knew right away that I was getting a cold sore. And I was so upset. We go there. I'm like anxious the whole time. I don't really speak. I'm like, I don't want to be here. Blah, 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 blah. We leave that night. The next morning I wake up. And whenever I've gotten a cold sore in the past, small little circle one right here. But no, I woke up that morning, bottom lip covered. My lip was swollen. I'm not exaggerating. I would show a photo, but it was disgusting. And I don't even know if I'd be allowed to share that. From here to here, my bottom lip was covered in cold sores. That was the final moment for my husband. He was already kind of thinking about blocking them and stuff, but that was the moment for him where he really was like, yes, we need to go no contact. We cannot do this anymore, because because I'd always told him how it physically affected me, but he couldn't actually when he saw my lip, he felt awful. And that's when he finally was like, okay, no more. I cannot allow you to be treated this way. I cannot allow your body to respond and feel unsafe in that way. So this just shows you how deep the trauma and the pain and the toxicity is with these kind of people. And I know this part 1 is long, but these are just a couple examples of how awful it was for me. And mind you, this is only like 2 or 3 things. This is nothing compared to the 3 years that I dealt with this woman. And like I said, I'll go more into that in the next part. I know that was long, but I hope that was helpful. And this is the first time I've ever really shared this with anybody other than a few people close to me. So I hope you relate to it, that you're feeling some hope, or that you're at least feeling seen and heard, because I know how alone you can feel. But that's all. I can't wait to see you in part 2. Thank you for giving me the space to share and to encourage me and support me. It means so much. Bye. Hi, welcome back to part 2 of My Mother-in-Law Hates Me Because I Married Her Son and She Couldn't. In all seriousness, I'm doing this series to put light on how narcissistic people behave, especially in-laws, and the trauma that comes with it, and how my husband and I got through that. We are now 2 years no contact with him, and it has been amazing. In part 1, I went over the 2 catalyst moments of when we were like, yeah, we can no longer do this. Now I'm going to get into more juicy stories, but I still want to keep it somewhat informational because I want this to spread awareness for how these people are. I have 5 different types of manipulation / toxic behaviors that narcissist people have, and I'm going to give stories for all 5 of these things. This specific part and this topic is probably going to have to be split into 2 parts. So this will probably end up being more than 5 because they're just too much to even talk about. So let's jump right in. So the first toxic trait is control, and I'm going to wrap kind of controlling the narrative into that. So I'm going to tell you 2 different stories, parts of my story that co-align with control and controlling the narrative. Also, a lot of people were commenting, wanting to know how she was during our wedding and wedding planning. She was pretty absent during all of the planning. We weren't really in contact with her then. And obviously, I wouldn't have her involved in anything. I think at this point, I already had her blocked on all social media besides text message. So there wasn't too much in regards to that. But I have several examples of at the wedding, things that she did or said, and after the wedding that happened that will give you a better idea of how she was during this time. So at our wedding, she had a conversation with my mom. This is the first conversation that they have had pretty much in person. Because like I mentioned in part 1, at his police academy graduation, I think they said hello and introduced themselves, but that was the only time they had ever met up until the wedding. So they're having a whole conversation. His mother thinks apparently that I don't speak to my mom and that I don't tell her anything. This is how much control she thinks, you guys, that we wouldn't be telling anybody what was happening. So my mom knew every single thing. She was there in the middle of the night when I would be crying and sobbing because I was so upset about everything that was happening. My mom knew what was happening. So bring in his mother, and mind you, at our wedding, she was wasted. She literally was drinking the whole entire night. The only part of the wedding that we let her be in was a mother-son dance. And not gonna lie to you, I literally left the room because I couldn't even stomach to watch it. But I later found out through an ex-girlfriend of one of his brothers who had reached out to me that she claimed that she could only get through our wedding if she was just wasted and drinking. That was the only way she could get through it. She's talking to my mom, and she's telling my mom how much she loves me, she's obsessed with me, she can't wait for me to be a part of the family, I'm the daughter she's always wanted. All of this kind of bullcrap. We love having her over and having her hang out. She's the sweetest girl. She's so smart. We love that she's in school and working and doing all these things. Literally hyping me up like I'm the best person in the world. Mind you, how she's literally treated me for 3 years straight. And I have been telling my mom all of this stuff. Obviously, she's trying to spin the narrative to my mom that she loves me, probably hoping that if I told my mom anything, that she could manipulate my mom into thinking it wasn't true. So my mom, because she is a very smart, educated woman, she literally sat there and was like, oh, okay, listening to her say her whole spiel. Didn't really say anything back. And then the day after my wedding, she called me and she was like, girl, you have got to hear what she was saying at the wedding last night. Mom was like, I didn't want to tell her that I know because I wanted to see how much information I could get from her to see how much she would lie about stuff. And it was like a 25-minute conversation, she said. And she was just sitting there like, oh, yeah. Letting her just say all these things to just prove even more how much of a liar she is and how much she likes to control the narrative. The second story to this one is, before my husband and I got engaged, but she knew we were getting serious, she could not stomach the thought of him and I getting married, she would sit down with my husband with his enabling, weird stepdad over and over again and sit him down and tell him that he wasn't smart enough or adult enough or mature enough to be married and to live on his own. She would sit him down and try to manipulate him into thinking that he was dumb, that he couldn't live on his own, that he needed her and that family to survive, and that he could not do it with me because we were just not smart enough, not mature enough to be married and live on our own. And that he should just break up with me and not be with me. This was literally right before we got engaged, a couple months before. So we were like 23 years old at this point. He might have already been 24. I don't really remember specifically. But definitely, obviously, old enough to live on our own. Definitely old enough to be married. So that was how she would try to control and manipulate him into doing what he wanted. When he wanted to break up with me and do what she wanted, guess what she did? She waited for him to leave the house one day and left a handwritten note taped to his door telling him that she could not support this marriage, she did not like me, that they all hated me, and that he was kicked out. And she had a specific date, I think it was like a month from then, that he needed to be out of the house because they didn't support him, they didn't support us, and he would not be living under her roof if he was with me. She also said in this note that she wasn't going to come to our wedding because she didn't support it. And for years at this point, she had been telling my husband that I was the one that hated them, I was the one that had all the issues, that I was the one that didn't like them and didn't try. But then in this letter, she finally admitted that I'm not the only one who hates Savannah and doesn't like her. Nobody else does either. It's also not true because I helped his brothers go through breakups with their girlfriends. I've talked to them. I've helped them through things. So I know at this point they definitely did not feel that way about me. Maybe one of them did, but he's a trash person, so that's besides the point. But she finally admitted that she was the one that has hated me all along and that it was not me. I think this was another attempt for her to try to control him and scare him into saying, hey, you're kicked out. Well, we honestly weren't that pressed. We had already been looking at apartments at this point, and I think we actually had just applied for one, so he was not stressed about this. It was more of like okay, I see where this is going, and we definitely will be cutting this relationship off. I have so many more stories about her being controlling because that's like the main characteristic of these kind of people, but I'll leave it to those two and move on to boundary violation. Remember in part one when I told you how she tried to make me think that my husband was cheating on me with the ex-girlfriend from high school who she was obsessed with? Well, let me give you more details to that story that relates to boundary violation. So remember in part one when I had talked about this, I had said how she told me that he was cheating on me with his girlfriend from high school that she was obsessed with and could never like me because she just liked this girl too much and couldn't get over it. Well, in this conversation, when she was trying to tell me that he had been cheating on me, she told me that this girlfriend had been over at the house every single week, and that's how she knows that he's cheating, because she's been at the house. Ask any of the kids, they've seen her at the house, like she's been at the house and blah, 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 blah. Mind you, once again, during this time, my husband was in the police academy. In the specific police academy that he was in, Monday through Friday, he was at the academy, no cell phone, was not allowed to leave, never came home Monday through Friday. He was able to have his phone, I think for 1 hour every single night from like 8:30ish to like 9:30ish. And every single night he would be calling me and we would be on the phone until he couldn't be on the phone anymore. And then literally Saturday morning, from the time that he got out, him and I worked together all Saturday, all Sunday, every single weekend, several months while he was in the academy. And she's trying to tell me that somehow during the week he was at home with his ex-girlfriend from high school that she's obsessed with. But guess what we find out from the stepdad? The girlfriend was at their house, but not because my husband invited her. His mother had been having this girl at her house every week, just hanging out with this girl. While my husband is at the academy and he's dating me and we're about to get engaged. She's having this girl come to her house and hang out with her like they're best friends, daughter and mother, being weird, and then trying to use that as a way to make me believe that he is cheating. That is weird. And she was trying to be sneaky about it and doing it while he was at the academy because he wouldn't be home Monday through Friday. So that was when
Why did the girl even come over? I'm convinced the mother was like, yeah, my son wants to be with you, but he's at the academy right now, so we could just spend all this time together.
Yeah.
Either way, that's so weird. Like, you're not even dating this man and you're just kicking it with his mom. I mean, I guess that's just their relationship. I don't know.
Man, I knew that mom was the one who was inviting that girl over there. You can ask anyone. Look, go ask. She was here. You just this so much. That's manipulation in itself. Like, you know, if I go ask them, they're gonna be like, yeah, she was here, but they're not gonna say because we're just asking that question. But if I ask them who invited her, then it's a whole different conversation. Like, oh, my mom did. Like, right. So why are you? I want to know what's her exception. I want to know what is her obsession with this girl, this other girl. Like, what is she
That's
doing?
it's
Like, you just date
so
her.
weird.
So just date her, mom. At this point, why are you wanting me to go ahead and date her? What the hell? And then what's wrong with the girl? Why is she still popping up? Just weird energy. What is going on? You're not welcome.
And I can't believe they were gonna kick them out because they wanted to be married. So it wasn't a problem that they were living there before, but now that they're about to get married, now it's a problem. Now she can't stand them being together. Like,
Now she want to tell on her son. Like, girl, I wouldn't have been hearing none of that. I would have. I see why they no contact after the marriage. Because if you ain't gonna support it, what we keep coming around here for? We don't. I mean, I hate to say that because I know if you're a mom out there, you want your kids to come around. But if you're a mom like this,
bigger things of crossing boundaries because my husband was so freaking mad when he heard this out because he's like, that is so weird. Why are you doing this? Why would you have her over? Like, it was such a thing. I had a conversation with him, was yelling and screaming at him. It was just like a horrible situation. That's why I said in part 1, it was a very traumatic night because just so many things came out. But I'll leave it to that one for a boundary violation because I want to try to get as many stories as I can. And I know this is already going to be long, but hopefully you can stick along because I think this is super important. Last toxic trait I'll talk about is love bombing. And then that going into a punishment cycle, which basically means that they bomb you with love, and then once something doesn't go their way, then they try to punish you for that. And this specific one I have is from our wedding. So at the time, my husband had a little half-sister. She was little, maybe like 5 at the time, I don't really remember. So she was the daughter of his mom and then the stepdad. So for our wedding, we were going to have her and then my little niece, who was like 3 at the time, be our flower girls. Because I was super, super close with my niece. My husband was super close with her. We loved her. My husband really loved his little sister, and I was always playing with her and talking to her when I was over there and trying to like include her and be like a big sister to her. But we really wanted them to as the flower girls. So during a brief period of time, when my husband's mother was trying to pretend like she was being nice and being supportive and whatever, she was really excited that we wanted his little sister to be our flower girl. We had talked about it. She said that the little sister was so, so excited. And his little sister loved wearing dresses. Like, she was super, super girly. So she was like, oh, she's going to love this. She gets to wear a pretty dress, blah, 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 blah. So once I found the flower girl dresses that I wanted, I sent it to her and I sent it to my little niece. And it was like a cheap dress. It was probably like 20 to 30 bucks, I think. It was cheap. It was just like kind of like a white little silk dress and it had like little lace right here. Super cute, super simple, nothing crazy. So that's where all the love bombing is, saying she's super, super excited. Can't wait for the little sister to be a part of it. They're going to buy the dress. This is so exciting, blah, 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 blah. But then we start to get into our punishment cycle where she starts to get mad about things that we're not doing the way that she wants. And then she's going to punish us. One of those being my husband's bachelor party. I feel so bad for my husband because instead of having some of his best friends be his groomsmen, he decided to have his 3 Mexican brothers as his groomsmen. And they were not loving, were not supportive of him at all. They weren't nice to me. He really wanted that sentimental value of having them there, and he had always held hope for a long time that they would finally come to realize who their mother was and that it would be nice to look back on and see that they were his groomsmen. But even that in of itself was a freaking nightmare. They wouldn't order their clothes. My husband had to buy some of them because they said they weren't going to. Like, it was just a horrible thing anyway. But none of them wanted to throw him a bachelor party. I waited and waited and waited for them to do something on their own. They wouldn't. I literally sacrificed myself and went to his mother's house alone to talk to his brothers and help them with ideas, like, what can we do? Like, I think he really deserves to have a bachelor party. Like, and they're like spitting out all these weird ideas, but they're like talking or whatever. And I'm like, okay, just let me know. Like, I will help you plan whatever you need to. I don't hear anything. I don't hear anything. I don't hear anything. And they're not planning anything. So then my precious dad, on his own accord, reached out to me and he was like, hey, has Donovan's brothers like done anything for him? And I'm like, no, they haven't. Like, my heart literally breaks for him because my husband is like the most precious person ever. Sorry, getting emotional because my husband is literally so precious. He didn't deserve like any of the ways that he was treated. Sorry, I had to take a minute there. Anyway, my dad reaches out and he was like, have they planned anything? And I was like, no, they haven't. And he was like, well, I have a really cool idea. If you want to reach out to them, ask them if they're free on this evening and we'll surprise Donnie. And it was like axe throwing because my husband is super into like working out and doing super cool stuff like that. And it was literally perfect. So it all worked out to where I picked up his brothers and Donnie, and I drove them to the axe place. My dad was there waiting, and they all had a super good night. My dad paid for literally everything, all of their axe throwing. Afterwards, they went out for pizza, and my dad paid for all that, and it was just like a super fun night, and my husband really, really loved it. His brothers literally didn't do anything for him. Anyway, so this whole night happens. We dropped them back off at the house. My husband had such a good night. We didn't go inside the mom's house because it was late, and neither one of us, especially my husband, did not want to deal with her. Why I wake up to a text message from her saying, "How dare you not invite Donovan's stepdad? I found out that your dad was there. This is so cruel of you. Like, why didn't you invite the stepdad? He should have been there too." Say very cruel, a lot of capital letters, a lot of harsh language about why I didn't invite the stepdad. Mind you, I drove them, but my dad was the one that planned all of this. I literally just planned where to pick them up at. And also, this stepdad, him and Donovan did not have a relationship. Like, this guy came to the picture when Donovan was like 12 or 13, and they never like really connected like that. He enables the mom so much and is weird as well. So like, it would have been weird to invite him to begin with. But because of this situation and another one that I'll talk about in the next part where she was super upset and threatened to not come to the wedding if Donovan invited any of his Mexican side of the family, which just weird. But she decided to punish us by telling us like a week or two before the wedding, it was super short before the wedding, that the little sister hated her dress, didn't want to be in the wedding, didn't even want to be at our wedding at all, and that she was not going to be a flower girl, and that she was not going to force her to be a flower girl. It's completely false, because at the wedding, this little girl was dancing and twirling and having so much fun and dancing with me and Donnie. So she obviously wanted to be there, and she would have loved to have her dress and be a flower girl, but her mother took that away from her because she doesn't like to not be in control of things. But she was also trying to punish us and get a rise out of us. But we had dealt with her for so long that we just knew. So we were like, that's okay, no issues. Like, if she doesn't want to be a flower girl, that's totally fine. She thought she could punish us by not having the little sister in the wedding. And as sad as it is, we knew that we weren't going to really have a relationship with them for very long after the wedding. So we were not pressed about it at all. And honestly, the less involved she was, the better. Because that and a mother and son dance were the only two things in our entire wedding that she was involved of. She didn't even walk down the aisle like my mom did. Like, I didn't want her involved at all. I even told our photographer beforehand, don't take a single photo of his mother. I don't want her or any of the family in any of the pictures. And when we did family photos, Donovan was in all of my family photos with everybody, but then once we were done with mine, I left, and she took a couple of him with his family. Pretty much threw those away. We never sent it to them. He doesn't even look at them. And they're honestly creepy because she's staring at the camera like this. A creepy smile, black eyes, looking... I don't even know, just the narcissist black eyes, just imagine that, staring at the camera, not even smiling, and this is her son's wedding. I feel like this video is literally so long, so I'm going to stop here and continue in part 3, where I'm going to talk about playing the victim and triangulation, which is where she tries to tell every single person different stories, so then everybody's being lied to and being pit against us. Once again, I want to thank you guys so much for your support. This has literally been so freeing to tell my story, especially knowing this woman continues to lie about us, talk horrible things about my family and my child. It's so sad that so many women relate, but I'm so glad that I can share my story and make you guys feel heard, and also give you some tea along the way. But thank you for listening. I'll see you in part 3. Bye. Hi, welcome back to part 3 of my toxic mother-in-law hates me because I married her son and she couldn't. But in all seriousness, I'm doing this series to not only share my story and my husband's story, who by the way 100% supports me doing this and is behind the scenes like helping me remember specific details and things of our story, to not only bring awareness to how families and people like this are, but to help give advice or whatever people need to get through their similar situation. At the end of this video, I think I'm going to leave it open for people to ask me questions about boundaries or whatever else they may have questions about in the comment section. Part 5 I can use to answer these questions and give advice on what we did to make boundaries. I can even give a little insight on what my husband was thinking during this time and how he made boundaries for himself to protect himself and to protect us and our growing family. Let me know if that's something you'd be interested in. Now let's get back to the stories I was telling in part 2. And just a little reminder, I was going over some of the most popular toxic traits that people, mostly these narcissist people, have. Talked about being controlling, talked about boundary violation and pushing boundaries, and we also talked about love bombing. So now for playing the victim. So this was kind of a confusing thing in my last video because I mentioned my husband's Mexican brothers. But my husband is half white, half Mexican. And his mother isolated him from his Mexican side of the family when he was very young, when his dad left. And she tried to take all culture away from him, all family away from him. And he grew up with his Mexican family. They were very close, so this is very upsetting for him. They would get in trouble if they talked to the Mexican side. She manipulated them about the Mexican side of the family. She would lie about them, say different things about them. And my husband was old enough to remember and to know and knew all that stuff, but he was scared of her, so he didn't want to go against her. So it wasn't until he was like 18 and adult that he finally was able to embrace that side of his family and tried to build those connections back. And luckily we are very close with some of them, and it really warms my heart to see my husband with these people because he grew up with them and he loved them so much. And once again, she like took that away from him. Anyway, so let's backtrack to our wedding. She was threatening not to come to our wedding literally every other day over something stupid. First the bachelor party, then the little sister's dress like I talked about last time. The biggest thing where she tried to play a victim and like manipulate and control him on pieces of our wedding was about the Mexican family specifically. Like I said, she was very controlling over his Mexican family his whole life. Tried to isolate from him, wanted them to have nothing to do with him.
You know what I'm starting to think right now? I'm starting to feel like, you know how at first I was thinking like maybe his mom is obsessed with him, but I think his mom hates him now. So women can hate the baby dad so bad that if he looks like his dad, oh my goodness. Like she's literally sitting this man down, telling him how dumb he is, how immature he is, not how unresponsible, not even feeding no life into this young man. Just feeding all of this negativity and doubt into this man. I'm sorry, not a little man, but man. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like it's because she hates his dad so much, and he looks like him probably. I don't know this for a fact, but I just be knowing, man. I grew up in a pretty narcissist family. When you look like the person your mother hates, I feel for you.
That makes sense because the fact that she's taking away everything that he loves, he's trying to break them up,
Yeah.
first of all. Then he's taking them away from the family. He's telling them who he can invite to the biggest day of his life, essentially.
Like she paying. Like she paying for it or something. Like she footing the bill. Like, come on now.
And I'm pretty sure she convinced the brothers not to throw the bachelor party. So it's like all these things are supposed to be these big moments for him.
His brother's hating too.
Yeah.
His brothers must ain't got no Mexican in them. They hating him. They hating
as
on him.
controlling as his mother is, they probably feel the same, like scared to like step up because it seems like they all live in this house.
Yeah,
So
nah,
it's like,
you can't convince no grown man not to support they. My mama couldn't tell me nothing to stop supporting my brothers. Like, man, that's your beef. You can't convince a man not to date a woman. How the hell you gonna convince a man not to be there for his brother? Them boys ain't never mess with him, if you ask me, and that's why they all on the no contact list. If they show any genuineness, then they wouldn't be cut off. It'd just be the mom. Don't overlook these things. I'm telling you, messy family. Your brothers and your sisters, your family, your mother can hate you for real. I know that sounds crazy, but I lived it.
Because she was petty and just not a very good person. So sometime before the wedding, she notices on Facebook that my husband and I are friends with a lot of his Mexican family on Facebook, and that really, really made her mad. So she texts my husband about this, like, why are you friends with them on Facebook? Like, are they going to be at the wedding? I need to know, blah, 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 blah. He doesn't respond to her because during this time, like I said previously before our wedding, we weren't no contact yet, but we've limited our contact a lot, especially during the wedding time when him and I were living together and stuff like that. So when my husband doesn't respond, she sends me this big, long text trying to manipulate me about the situation about his family, which I'm not going to speak on because it's not my business. That's not my story. This is. But she sends me this big, long text about a bunch of lies about the Mexican family and how she's scared for her life and she needs to know right this second if we're inviting any of the Mexican family, because if we invite anybody from the Mexican family, she will not be there and she cannot be there. Is what she said. So I immediately screenshot and sent to my husband. I'm like, I'm not dealing with this. I think I very politely answered her and I was like, I'm so sorry you feel this way. Like, it's something you should talk to Donovan about. He's at work right now, so that's probably why he's not responding. So she sent us all of these nasty messages playing victim about how she was threatening not to come to the wedding if we invited these people, acted like her life was threatened if they were to come, which is just bogus. But anyway, the wedding day comes, and guess who I see her like laughing with and talking to a lot of the times during the wedding? The Mexican side of the family. She's laughing, she's talking and reminiscing on memories, became friends with some of them on Facebook. So it just shows how these people just lie to try to get what they want. She was trying to play the victim to get what she wanted, and she couldn't get it. Tried to play the victim to control my husband and the people that we had on our wedding, and she couldn't do it, and that really upset her. Another way that she would play victim is through her husband, my husband's stepdad. If you remember from part 1, I said she likes to do things behind the scenes, meaning she would never act me in front of my husband or say these things in front of my husband, but she would text me nasty things. She would try to pull me to the side and corner me and tell me these things. She would try to pull my husband when he's by himself alone at home and tell him things, or text him things when he's not home, or leave notes on his door. She also liked to go behind the scenes with her husband. I cannot count on 2 hands how many times she was upset about a situation and had her husband come to my husband's room saying, how could you do this to your mother? She's heartbroken. She's crying inside. You're treating her so poorly. How could you do this? Playing her out to be some huge big victim. And he's saying all of this stuff over the situation of him just being with me. Literally, he would say all this stuff, and the only issue was that he was with me. Talk in part 4 about our experiences when I got pregnant with my daughter. We were no contact, but my husband did give them respect of telling them, and she freaking blew up, and the stepdad did too. So I'm going to talk about that in part 4, because he sent my husband a nasty, nasty text about, how could you do this to your mother? You've heartbroken, you have broke her, you have done X, Y, and Z. Mind you, because we went no contact, because she had traumatized me for 3 years and was awful to her own son. They would also like to play this narrative of, how could you do this? You're a cop. How could you do this to your own mother because you're a cop? Which, the profession and how your family treats you and the boundaries you make literally have nothing to do with one another. But they would try to dig any way that they could. So I'll tell more about that in part 4 when I talk about when I got pregnant and their reaction to that and the horrible things that they've said about our family and about my daughter. Mind you, she's only 16 months old. So the last thing I want to talk about for this part is triangulation. And this is a really important story because this kind of set the tone for us not being in contact with his brothers as well. But triangulation is when she would tell different people different stories to cause drama and to say lies, and then would like to sit back and watch. And she did this a lot with the brothers. Like I said, this have just kind of called them the Mexican brothers because they are all full brothers with the same mom and dad, and they are all around the same age. My husband is the oldest, and they all kind of trickle like a year or 2 years behind. There's 4 of them. And then there's 2 little siblings, full white siblings that belong to her and the stepdad. And they were so significantly younger that it's important to leave them out of it because they're just little. They don't know what's going on. But the brothers are old enough. They understand what's going on. They're adults. So like I mentioned in part 2, these brothers were a nightmare to work with trying to get all of their wedding clothes, with the bachelor party. And then at the actual wedding itself, it was just really upsetting. So, you know, at a wedding, your maid of honor, your groomsman, whoever, gives a speech for you. So for me, my maid of honor gave me a speech, and my dad gave us a really lovely speech, and it was really precious. Well, I obviously was not letting anybody in his family, like his mother or his father, speak. So the only speech that he was going to get was from one of his groomsmen. After the ceremony, before we come in and they like introduce us as Mr. and Miss for the first time, I was trying to ask his brothers, I'm like, hey, are any of you giving him a speech? The DJ's asking, he needs to know for mics and stuff. And they weren't answering. And I'm like, hey, like, are any of you giving a speech? I need to know. Like, if not, it's okay. Like, I'll find somebody else to do it. But please just answer me. They would not answer me. And I was actually getting a little annoyed. I think I got a little stern because I was not about to play by my husband and have him be embarrassed or have him feel like he's not worthy of a nice speech. So I got a little stern and I was like, yes or no, just tell me so I can go ask somebody who actually cares about him to give him a speech. They said no. Then finally, the youngest of the 4 brothers said that he would do one for Donovan. And that was actually really special for Donovan and for me because the youngest brother was a very like shy, timid, and like kind of anxious brother. Wow. And honestly, I'd always really liked him and like connected with him. But it was very heartwarming that he was finally the one that said that he would do something because I was completely outside of his character. And his speech was really cute and it was sweet. But I still needed a second one for my husband. So I literally, after we got introduced and went to the table, I literally had to run over across the room to one of his close friends and be like, hey, I'm so sorry. This is like on a whim. I'm gonna getting emotional about this because like I said in part 2, my husband is so precious and he just deserves good things. But I had to run over to his friend. I'm like, I'm so sorry. This is like on a whim. But do you think when they announce speeches that you could like give Donovan a speech? And he was a really good guy. He was a really good friend. He was like, oh my gosh, yes, of course. Like, don't worry. And he gave Donovan a speech and it was very precious. And he was a good friend of both of ours at the time. So it was just a really nice, wholesome speech. But a month after the wedding, when we went over there, I remember I got a whole mouthful of cold sores on my bottom lip. We decided to go to no contact. His mom was really mad about this when he called her and made boundaries with her. So her retaliation was to lie to all the brothers. And one lie that really made my husband mad was she told the youngest brother of the 4 that Donovan told her that he hated his speech and meant nothing to him. He shouldn't have even done it, that it wasn't good. Like, telling him all these awful things. And like I just said, guy is very shy, he's very anxious, like, I think he's like a little more emotional than the others. So hearing this from your mother, you have not yet seen her true colors, talking about your big brother, who you really look up to, you really love, you really adore, and have her say all these things, and you're like, why would my mom lie to me, but also why would my brother say these things about me? It was just awful of her because not only was it very upsetting and hurtful to us because that was a straight up lie, it did emotional damage to the brother as well. His mom is literally just like daggering all of her children because she's like upset that him and I got married. And so one night we had the brothers over a little bit after to discuss how we made boundaries with the parents and stuff. And one thing that this brother asked was, why did you say you hated my speech? And we were both taken aback and we were like, oh my gosh, what? No, we loved the speech. It was so sweet. Like, that meant so much to me. And he goes on to tell us about how she said all these things about the speech. When in reality, my husband was making boundaries with her on the phone call. He told her, nobody in my family could do anything for me. They didn't support me. They didn't stand up for me. They couldn't even throw me a bachelor party. The only thing anybody did for me was the youngest brother gave me a speech, and I'll hold on to that forever because that was so precious to me. But other than that, he not supported me. The only thing that he had good to say about them, the only thing that they supported them on was this one brother's speech. And she took that and she lied about it and changed the narrative and made a bunch of false statements, told this younger brother that he's heartbroken, he's upset, and now he's coming to Donovan saying, why did you say this about me? And so now we're upset and we're heartbroken that he thinks that, and we're angry that she's lying once again. It was always so frustrating because she was constantly lying to the brothers about Donovan and I, and we are not drama people, so my husband was not going to them and spilling all the details and trying to get them to hate her. He was hoping that through her actions and her words that they could see who she was. But to this day, they're so far up her butt. We don't have a relationship with any of them. Just recently, actually, my husband had to cut ties and decide that he couldn't be in a relationship in any kind of way, surface level or not, with the brothers, because some of them have shown their true colors and they are awful, disgusting people. But that is my story on one of the biggest lies and triangulation things that she did with all of the siblings that not only hurt me and my husband, but she purposely hurt her other children as well by lying to them. That kind of sums up part 2 and 3 of the different toxic traits and stories to go along with them. Obviously, this is just a handful of a huge pool of stories that I have, but I wanted to talk about the most impactful ones that I've had and that my husband have had, because it is heartbreaking to see how a mother would treat her children this way. I don't have a son yet, but I have a daughter, and I can't imagine whether it was a boy or a girl that I had treating their partner in any kind of way like this when they are older. It baffles me, and it's not mentally healthy, and it's not okay. Something I'll never stand by is people talking horrible, horrific things about children, especially if it's my child. Absolutely not. And that's what I'll go into in part 4 of her blow up when she found out we were pregnant and the horrible things that she said about not only us and me specifically, but about our tiny infant baby. That's all for this part. Thank you so much for listening and for hearing my story and being so invested. I see all your comments and I see your messages and I'm trying to respond to them as I can. Like I said, I have a toddler, so I'm trying to record these parts at any time that I had. I recorded part 2 during that time. Now she's in bed. I'm trying to record this part. So please give me some grace on the timing because my priority is my daughter and I want to be present with her when she is awake. But like I mentioned before, if you have any questions about how I set boundaries, how my husband handled things, how we did anything to be able to get to a healthy spot, ask those questions in the comments because I'm going to pull a lot of those and talk about them in part 5 or whatever the ending part may be. But that's all. I hope you have a lovely day and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.
You know what triggered me the most, honestly, is that with the child. That bothers me so much because what kind of mother, well, his mother, and many other women like this, sadly, and just parents in general, what is the goal? Is the goal to harden your children's heart towards each other? Like, did you have all these children to not want to protect each other? Like, what was the point of having all these kids? This is a woman who only had kids to please a man. And when that situation didn't go the way she planned, now she's just envious. Like, you had all these children trying to keep this man. I already know your story. She ain't got to come out to her story. I know this type of story. That has to be the reason. You trying to control your kids and not get them to go on their side, his dad's side of the family. And when he finally grows up, and because you can't keep boys away from their fathers for long, just like women, they're going to want to see that other parent for themselves. They're going to want to experience that for themselves. And instead of accepting that, you just sit there and you try to turn all these kids against you. It really triggered me when she told that little boy that, because it's like these kids are so impressionable. No telling how that affected his day. He went out his way, anxious, anxiety, having all these things going for himself. He didn't even want to speak. You could tell that he knew what they were doing was wrong. That how they did him was wrong. He felt bad, so he jumped out of his comfort zone to go say something about his brother, just for her to say that he didn't even like your speech. Like, oh my goodness, woman, now I'm starting to see why she got those black marks around her eyes.
Yeah,
she's evil.
She's just trying to, destroy everyone that could potentially expose her in a way. It's like you took something so beautiful. You knew this was so important to the son that got married, and you just threw it out like it was nothing. Like he used that against you. Like this was the only brother that did something for me, and now you look at it like, no, like.
Right. I wouldn't even blame her for not I wouldn't bring no kids around that mom. I'm not gonna lie. She needs to get a little help. She needs to sit on somebody's couch and
She even
and
took
talk about
that.
the trauma she got because something going on with the
Yeah,
mama.
she even took that moment from her daughter being the flower girl. She was so excited, had the dress and everything, and now she's
Right.
telling them she doesn't even want to be a part of that. It's
Mm.
like it sounds like she's a pathological liar.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I'm assuming people like that just can't help but lie. Everything that comes out their mouth is a lie, and they literally just can't help it.
That's what happens when you go unchecked for so long. Like
I see
nobody
why she's
ever
staying
set you
out.
down and checked you on your behavior. And honestly, I don't blame them for being separated because, man, would you want your kids to be around somebody like this? And this is your mother at that too. It's like I know it hurts him not being able to take his first child to his mom's house to see his grandma. I'm the same way. It's like you be in situations like this, you have no choice, man. They leave us no choice but to just like you got to go heal. Like his mama clearly, like no disrespect to him and his mom, but she definitely needs to sit down. She got a lot of trauma in her. Like she got a lot of build. This is what happens when you got all this trauma build up and you never resolve it because you are just attacking people at this point for no reason, just for being happy. Somebody's energy should not disrupt you that bad. If somebody's happiness causes that much disruption in your heart, you need to go sit down on somebody's couch. You need to go sit down. You need to pray. Find peace, dog, because this ain't gonna be the way. Controlling people and making them feel like they gotta be around you is gonna make you become a lonely person. I don't know how long the husband gonna stick around, but if she this way, I wouldn't be the partner. I mean, pray for him too. Goodness gracious.
I don't know why when these liars, you know, tell these lies, they don't think that everyone's gonna sit around and expose them. Like this is when the son realized, you know, mom lied the whole time. Like it
Right.
broke his heart at that when he told her that. It's like
Yeah.
now we all know who is the one that's lying. And then if you address the situation, what you're gonna do, bust out crying and play victim? It's like at one point you gotta grow up. Like this is not gonna work. The crying tactics are not working. You playing victim no longer works. You were the adult in this situation.
Right. She one of them bitter baby mamas who keep their kids away from their dads because she just mad. Like, granted, he probably did do something that was heartbreaking to her, but keeping his kids away from him, he could be a terrible father. I mean, he could be a terrible boyfriend, but don't take fatherhood from him unless he's a bad person, you know? And the fact that one of them actually went on to have a relationship with his dad and inviting him to the wedding just shows that his dad wasn't as bad as the mom painted him out to be. And we all been in situations like that. Like women sometimes and men can be very bitter towards the partner depending on, the situation. But I feel like kids shouldn't have to be involved in these type of things. Let parents be parents. Or you're going to grow up with black eyes like her.
Hi, welcome back to part 4 of My Toxic Mother-in-Law Hates Me Because I Married Her Son and She Couldn't. But in all seriousness, I've been making this series not only to share my story, my husband's story, but to spread awareness of how these kind of people are and how these families are and what kind of trauma and pain that can bring a person, but also how to get out of it and how to make those boundaries. But one of the first things I wanted to do in this video was I have gotten more comments than I can even count on people wanting to see what my nails are because they're so distracted, I guess, when I'm talking. So for all of the girls watching, these are the nails that I have. But back to the good stuff. In this part specifically, I wanted to discuss about when I got pregnant, how it went when we told them and her reaction, and how she went crazy from that, and how horribly she speaks of our child. It's one thing to treat me a certain way, it's one thing to treat your own son a certain way, but to talk bad and gross about a literal infant, a child, that is just on a whole nother level to me. Before I get into the story of it, a lot of people were commenting and asking like how I made boundaries when having a child and how the mother-in-laws always seem to come out of the woodwork when you have a child or when you have a kid, like the husband starts to get like sentimental and wants the mom in the picture, yada yada yada. We have not had any of those issues. One thing that I wanted to discuss in another part, but I just ran out of time because they were so long, was before my husband and I even got married, and everything was getting really bad before our wedding. We had already been engaged. I told my husband, I don't care what relationship you want to continue to have with your mom, whether you want to try to work on that relationship and keep it, whether you want to cut her off, whatever you decide to do, that is up to you. I will not be the wife or the girlfriend or the fiance that tells you what to do. But for me, I need to tell you this now because if you can't agree to this, then I cannot marry you. And I told him if he couldn't agree to me after our wedding, never seeing or speaking to his mother, never going to the house, never being involved in any of the family things, and if he could not agree to our future children not being exposed to her, then I couldn't marry him. And my reason behind that was I had gone through so much trauma and so much pain. My mother had gone through a very similar situation with my grandmother, my dad's mom. And I was subjected to a lot of pain and a lot of weirdness when I was a child because my dad didn't make those boundaries at first. And I saw the way that my grandma treated my mom and how she talked about her. And I could not have a child and put them in that kind of situation. That would be shameful of me. That would be immature of me. And I needed to have that conversation with him before our actual wedding day, because I would not be able to marry him if I knew that he wouldn't agree to that. But my husband agreed to it. He's literally the most precious person. Yeah. And he was like, I would never want my children to be exposed to that. I don't want you to be exposed to that. Like, that's not even like a question for me. Like, of course, yes, I respect that. And I think he was already leaning towards needing to be no contact anyway. But I needed to make it clear that you can do what you want because you're your own person. But me and the children that I have with you cannot be exposed to that kind of toxic energy and that toxic environment. For some of the people asking about a boundary, I made that firm before we got married, and that has stuck true. And obviously, after we got married, before we got pregnant, we went completely no contact with them. And how she has behaved and talked about our daughter, my husband would never, ever, 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 ever suggest or want to bring our children around her or his family. So back to the story. Yeah. We found out we were pregnant with our daughter in November of 2023, and it was super special. It was a super happy moment. We had always talked about growing a family and wanting children and wanting lots of them. So it was just a really special moment. And we kept that to ourselves for a while, and then eventually obviously told my family and our close friends and whatnot. But we were waiting till around like the 16-week mark to, share on social media and share with other people, because, in the early stages, like, anything can really happen. I mean, honestly, in the whole pregnancy, anything can. But we kind of wanted to get to that, like, quote-unquote safe mark before we shared. And me and my husband had decided that we would text them in a group chat message, the mom, the stepdad, and the Mexican brothers, and let them know that we were pregnant. At this time, I did not have his mother on social media. I either had her unfriended or blocked because my stuff was all private then. But my husband did still have her on social media at this time, so he knew if we posted it, she would see it. And we didn't want to start more drama. We wanted to be respectful and at least tell her, which honestly, I don't even think they really deserved that, and we didn't owe that to them. But we had always tried to be the bigger person in these situations. And at this point, my husband was still trying to hold hope for her that since we had been no contact and made those boundaries for a couple months, that maybe she would at some point send him a text and apologize or acknowledge what she had done or how she had treated us. In my head, I knew she never would because I've studied psychology. I know how a narcissist's brain works. But he is a more optimistic kind of person, so he kind of wanted to leave that door cracked. So he hadn't had her blocked on anything. We just never went over there, and we did not talk or communicate with her in any manner. So my husband sent a text in this group message, and it just said, "Hey, I hope you all are doing well. We just wanted to let you know that we're expecting a baby in August, and everything is going well with its checkups." And then ended it with, "I love you guys." One of his brothers responded and was nice and said, like, "Oh my gosh, congrats." The other two brothers didn't say anything. But his mom almost immediately texted back and was very upset. He was very upset that it was a text announcement and that we didn't come to them in person and tell them, and claimed that they didn't ask to be treated this way, trying to say that we were treating her poorly by only telling her over text, which is really ironic because the only reason why we're in this spot to begin with is because of how she has treated us poorly. And then, of course, ended the text message with some, like, manipulation, like, "Donovan, how could you let this happen? None of us wanted this. Like, you made it this way." Same old kind of stuff. So we didn't respond to that message at all. Because beforehand, we had discussed that we would send this to be respectful and to be mature about the situation, but we weren't going to engage. She ended up sending each of us a separate text message saying congrats. She sent Donovan a message that said, like, congrats, like, a baby is such a blessing. She texted me almost an identical message, but she added at the end, "Happy for you and my son." And the only reason why this irritates me a little bit is because throughout our whole relationship, she would never ever acknowledge us as a couple, as two people together. It was always her and my son, you and my son. Even when we were engaged, even when we were married, mind you, we're already married at this point, and she would never refer to us as you guys, or do you guys want to come over, or do you want to do this, or do you guys, or blah, blah, blah. It was always when she was speaking to me, she had to make the point of calling him her son, not your husband or you guys or anything to, talk about us as a couple. When my mom talks to Donovan, she doesn't text Donovan and say, "Hey, do you and my daughter want to have dinner tomorrow night?" No, she says, "Hey, do you guys want to have dinner with us? We'd love to see you." But his mom was not like that. It was always you and my son, or my son this, my son. It almost like possessive over him. It would never acknowledge that we were like a unit, we were a team. And that might not seem like a big deal to some people, but that's just like tiny little things that people like this like to do, to not only jab at you, but to be possessive and be controlling over this person, trying to make it seem like they are their person. when in reality they are their own person and they can make their own choices. So we responded to this message that she sent separately, but we responded at the exact same time saying the same thing, just simply thank you. So after she knew we were pregnant, she went crazy. The only text that we responded to was the 2 separate ones, and all we said was thank you. We didn't respond to the group chat one. She was going crazy, not knowing any information, not knowing anything, was upset that we were together and pregnant anyway. And the day following us sending this text, I'm at work and I get either text or a call from my husband, and he's like, I'm literally about to lose it. She will not stop calling me. It's not just like over the span of a couple hours she called like 2 or 3 times. No, she was calling over and over and over and over and over and over and over. I do remember now that it was a call, because as he was talking to me, he was literally like, I'm going to lose it. I'm literally having to hang up her phone call coming in so I can still talk to you. And this went on for a long period of time. And to me, that is just like psycho behavior. Like if somebody doesn't answer once, then I might call back a second time, like somewhat soon. But to call over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. And I think at one point he even texted her and he said, I can't talk, I'm at work. And she continued to call. When he did not answer her calls, when he did not text her or try to communicate with her in any way, she then had the stepdad send him a very, very nasty long text message. But what's interesting about this text message is that the verbiage and the way that things are written sounds very familiar to how the mother speaks. So it was always a big question mark on, did the stepdad actually write this and send it, or did his mom write this and send it through his phone, hoping that Donovan would listen to the stepdad, which was bogus because, like I said, they didn't have a relationship like this. And the text message was just a lot of the same stuff that I talked about in the last part, where he was just saying, how could you do this to your mother? Basically calling Donovan an awful person. How are you going to be a father if you can't even be a good son? And like all of this kind of mean, manipulative stuff to him, just saying how they deserve to be told in person, they deserve to know all the details and all the ins and the outs. And basically it was just a huge paragraph of how awful Donovan is and how they deserve better treatment, which
honestly, this is a sign of, this is what it says when they say misery loves company. This is what it looks like in rare form. What do you mean? How you gonna be a good father if you couldn't be a good son? That is easy. I don't have, listen, I'm not God. I'm not the Son, the Father, and the Holy Ghost. And listen, I can be one or the other. I don't have to do them all at once. What are you talking about, sir? Where are y'all kids? Listen, I feel like their marriage is struggling at this point. Not the storyteller, but the wife and the husband and the stepdaddy. Hold on, is they married?
Yeah.
I like how she keeps saying, she don't say her husband, she say the stepdad. She talk about how like she always point out the fact that she say in her son. I think in pettiness, she never announced those two as married. She'd be like in the stepdad. Like, of course, if the stepdad is disinvested, they're both miserable at this point. Like, come talk to your mama, bro, because I'm tired of dealing with her ass. Like, come on, please come see your mama. She's stressing me the hell out. She blew you up 100 times. Imagine when I can't sleep. Like, oh my goodness, I'm telling you, he ain't gonna be around for long.
They have so many more sons. So I'm just like, why are you so invested in their relationship? Like,
her relationship is in the shitter. Like, what is going on? If you are in a happily marriage, you should be, people who are happily married will be spewing out nothing but good things about marriage.
Right.
A person who's married and only talking about the negative sides of why you shouldn't get married is a person living a miserable life. And you should just heed to their warnings. Maybe they say some stuff that's factual and that you can learn from, but understand that everybody's different. So I could tell her mother's miserable, I could tell the marriage is in shambles. I don't care how that take that. Because what y'all doing? Like, just love your kids. How can you be a great, like, you a stepdad? Like, shut up, bro. Like, I would have just been like, shut up, bro. Like, I'll fight my stepdad. Like, you tripping. You tripping. It's an honor to thy mother and father. Who are you? Don't play with me, boy. You better stay in your spot. I ain't got to honor you. I got to listen to my mama, but not you.
It's just insane. But obviously Donovan never responded to that text message. I think, honestly, at that point in time, he blocked the stepdad because it was just so out of pocket. There was like no real coming back from that. Then after Donovan wasn't responding to any of this stuff, his mom tried to text me again and say, hey there, when is your actual due date? As if I would literally tell her anything or respond to her. And I know how you were just going psycho on my husband the day before. So obviously I did not respond to this text message. We did not want them knowing anything about anything related to the baby. I was like terrified that she would somehow, some way figure out like what hospital I was at or something and show up to like where we were. It was just so scary for me. When we first got married, we were in an apartment together and they didn't know where that was. But thank God, the way that everything like worked out, we actually bought a home a few months before I had my daughter, and they have no clue where we live. They don't know where our house is. So that is a huge blessing, because I was nervous when I first got pregnant. Like, if we're still at the apartment, like, she's probably going to show up. That was just a scary thought. That's kind of all for February. So let's fast track to June of 2024. A baby shower when I was 30 weeks old. We had it at the house, and was going to invite some of his brothers. None of them seemed interested besides one of them. But ultimately, we decided to not invite him and try to just have like a dinner or something separately to celebrate, because we did not want them having our address. And it made me really anxious. I did not want that. And my husband also did not want them to have our address. And we had the baby shower at our house. So if we were to invite the brother, then would have had to give him our address. So the baby shower was obviously mostly my family and then like our joint friends, because it was co-ed. So it would have been kind of awkward for his brothers to be there, especially because most people there knew how they treated us and that we weren't speaking to his family really. So it just kind of worked out better to where we wanted. When we asked him to hang out a different time and like get dinner and like celebrate that way, that never happened. But after our baby shower, a couple of days later, we posted some photos on Facebook. And remember I told you I wasn't friends with his mom on Facebook, but Donovan still was. And I don't know why he still was at this point, because I was kind of encouraging him to unfriend her on there, because every single day he was getting upset and hurt because she would post these crazy memes and like quotes on her page that are very obviously about us. So he was always hurt seeing these stupid little quotes and memes that she was posting all the time. So he was already kind of leaning to unfriending her and blocking her on there.
Goodness gracious.
But he ended up doing it because we posted photos and I tagged Donovan in them, not thinking that she would be able to see those because I tagged like all my friends that had came. And his mother almost immediately commented on my post saying something nasty about how none of his family knew, we weren't invited, like something along the lines of that. And I was so annoyed because she just loves to play the victim, not acknowledge any of the ways that she has treated us. Had she been a decent human and was just nice and kind to me, even on a surface level, like we didn't need to have a deep relationship, she could have been at these things and she could have been involved. She's not that kind of person. I call my husband, and before I can even say a word, he's like, I know, I'm so sorry. I just blocked her on Facebook. I shouldn't have left that door open. Like, I'm sorry you had to see that nasty comment. And that was kind of the end of that. Like, I didn't have to say anything. He already knew why I was calling. I wasn't calling him to tell him to block her, but I was calling him to be like, dude, enough is enough. Something's got to give here with these other forms that she can still do something with. Fast forward again to August when I have my baby. I think it was about a week after we had her that my husband sent in his group chat with his brothers a photo of her with her name, just saying like, she's here, you guys are uncles now. And he was still in contact with his brothers. I've been getting this question a lot too. He was still in contact with his brothers, but they had like an Instagram group chat where they like shared memes and that was it. There was never real conversations. They never tried to like hang out with him. They never asked about anything related to the baby. And they never met her. Like I would have let that happen, like meeting at dinner somewhere and maybe letting them meet her, but they weren't interested. Since Donovan told his brothers, the mom obviously found out that way. And once again, instead of letting this situation be something to bring her into the light and be like, wow, I really need to acknowledge how I treated them because I do want to be involved and I want to be a grandma and I want to be better to my son and the woman that he's married with. She used this as a way to trash talk our baby. And she was so tiny. So imagine a photo of our little baby. She only weighed 5 pounds. And imagine this woman looking at the photo of her and hearing her name, making fun of her name, saying that it was ugly. And by the way, her name is Aviana, and his mother was making fun of her name, calling it ugly, and saying that I was so self-centered because I only named her that because it sounded like my name, and that was so self-centered of me. But what's funny about this is that my husband found this name and came up with it. I had a whole list of boy names that I liked. I literally didn't have any girl names. And he found this, he loved it, he fell in love with it. I really liked it, I thought it was pretty. So that's what we went with. It had nothing to do with sounding like my name or anything. Her name is Aviana, mine is Savannah. Other than like ending with like I guess. Like they're not even really that similar. Like they both have 2 N's, but like sound completely different. Like hers seems a little bit more Hispanic. Mine is clearly not. But these were the first things that they were saying about her. That her name was ugly, that it sounded just like mine, and that makes me so self-centered, and that I'm going to be an awful mom. They're saying that my baby is a lost cause because I'm going to brainwash her to be just like me. Honestly, I hope she has some of my traits. I hope she stands up for things that she believes in. I hope she's confident in herself. I hope she can love people through their flaws. Also have a backbone where she can make boundaries and keep herself mentally, emotionally, and physically safe. And it's just sickening to hear somebody talk about a literal baby like that. And they still talk about her to this day. There have been people that have reached out to me that were with the brothers at some point and never believed anything she said about me because everything was contradicting. She lied about stuff. And so she had reached out to me after they broke up and And that's how I know that still to this day, as of recently, that they still talk about my daughter in this way and talk about how horrible of people me and my husband are. I don't know about you, but me, it is disgusting to talk about a child in any way like that. And I'm especially sensitive about it because it is my own daughter. Talk about me however you want. Talk about Donovan however you want. But to talk about a literal baby who has nothing to do with anything and is the most innocent, precious thing, to talk about her in that manner is just sickening to me and honestly unforgivable. Part 5, I think I've actually convinced him to do part 5 with me so you can hear some of his story, because I know a lot of you are asking, like, how did he deal with this? How did he, like, get through this? So I think he's going to join you for part 5, which I think will probably be the last. And we can go over, like, some of the boundaries and stuff and answer some of the questions from part 3, like I mentioned last time. It feels so good knowing that so many women are feeling heard and seen. Honestly, I'm feeling more seen and more heard now than I ever had from reading these comments and seeing all the women messaging me and how we can relate on this. But I hope you have a blessed rest of your day, and I will see you guys later. Bye. Hi, welcome back to part 5 of My Toxic Mother-in-Law Hates Me Because I Married Her Son and She Couldn't. In all seriousness, I started this series to not only share my story, but to try to help other women who have been in a similar situation. Although this kind of situation is extremely common, it is not talked about enough, which is why I wanted to do this. But unfortunately, this will be the last part, so I thought no better way to end it than to have my husband come on with me. So we will have a husband reveal. So many people have been asking questions about his side, how he felt about it, and just things along those lines. So he's going to share some of his story and also answer a lot of those questions that you guys have been asking at the same time. I know you had to wait a couple days extra for this specific part, so let's just get right to it. So here he is.
Hello.
So this is my husband, Donovan. Now I'll just let him say some of the stuff that he's been thinking and answer some of your questions.
Hello. So, some of you guys are interested in my perspective regarding this whole situation with my family. Savannah's kind of talked about most of the big things, but I just kind of boiled it all down to just 3 topics and a closing statement that I'd like to leave with people, especially people who are facing these kind of things and are struggling between, finally making that hard boundary of going no contact. Because it's not easy whatsoever, especially coming from my perspective. Like, it was a very hard trial, and it's not easy. So this is just my experience and some of my topics I'd like to cover. So topic 1, when I figured out that enough was enough, and that did not come super quick. So it definitely was early on. Me and Savannah were not fighting, just having arguments, because when you're coming from that family, you don't really see it readily like there. It's not until you bring somebody in that you start to notice some things, and then you use those things that you're noticing, and then when you reflect on some of your own past experiences, can you come up with some kind of conclusion that those behaviors aren't normal, and they may potentially be intentionally harmful to you and the person that you're choosing to bring into your circle. And that kind of brings me to my first bulletin point of topic 1, was malicious intent. And I'm not going to go into the details because Savannah's gone over a lot of it in the first couple parts, but there is a difference between somebody making a mistake and then taking accountability for that mistake versus somebody who is intentionally being harmful to you or your partner.
Which that kind of by nature is the definition of a narcissist. People who are purposely harmful but take no accountability and kind of enjoy seeing them go through that pain. With Donovan, there was a lot of aha moments with stuff that she did to me or stuff that she did to us as a couple, where it would bring back a memory from his childhood, where he would be like, oh yeah, she would do X, Y, and Z to me, which was weird, but I never thought about it until now. There was a lot of that, especially towards the end.
The second biggest thing that I saw that just kind of was the final nail was seeing the physical symptoms of severe stress being displayed with Savannah, especially with the lip sores, or the blisters,
Cold sores.
the cold sores. So this kind of stress, physical symptoms. This isn't just people getting to know new people. This is anxieties. This is past trauma. This is the current trauma, all being met at once. So me seeing this as her husband, that just changed something for me in terms of okay, I just can't subject her to this because she's doing it out of the kindness of her heart, trying to make it work. And I know it's bad, but there's that tiny child in you that's I want this to work. Hold on to that hope that it's going to work out. But at some point, you have to draw the line and be enough is enough. I'll make my own dream with the family that I built. And that was one of the biggest things that I saw that made me help reach that point.
Especially me, because if you know me, I'm literally not an anxious, nervous person at all. I kind of pride myself on how not anxious I get. So I think that was even more bigger for him, because every time I would say she would stress me out or make me nervous, he believed it, but not really, because I'm not like that. And watching my body react to her was a huge thing.
Looking at my notes because I'm not as good as Savannah when it comes to this kind of stuff.
He's also a little nervy because he doesn't record like this.
No, I don't. There's an incident that happened after the whole situation with Savannah's cold sore that my mom tried to reach out to me, I believe at the time in which she thought that Savannah was working. Knowing this, I let Savannah I put it on speaker and let Savannah listen. And it's just a bunch of nasty stuff, trying to get, saying that she didn't choose this, playing the whole victim card, saying that it's Savannah that's the problem. And throughout this time, Savannah's been the one that trying to get that relationship with them. There's always an excuse as to why they can't hang out last minute. When there is some time that they got to talk, it wasn't anything positive. And it's just more, like I said, more harmful and intentionally harmful. Savannah was putting in a lot of effort and it just wasn't reciprocated. And then it was thrown back at her that it was her fault and she's the reason why it's like this and that they didn't ask for it. And that's where it just kind of became like, okay, this is just ridiculous. Like, what are we doing? Another thing when it came to like the intentional like harm is even like on our wedding day, we didn't expect any kind of gifts. We're not those kind of people, but we're all pretty sentimental people. We keep like every happy birthday card, every Valentine's Day card, every letter that we write. And we do that with like family members who give us stuff like that. And my family knows that. And they didn't even give us like a wedding card, just saying like, hey, congrats. And I wasn't like super surprised about it because they made their support very well known. At least my mother did, that she didn't support it. So when I found out that we never got a card, I was like,
we definitely weren't expecting a gift at all, but they literally didn't even bring a card to the wedding either.
And furthermore, they didn't even like text us after. So my mom got super drunk at the wedding. She ended up telling somebody, we found out that she could only tolerate our wedding if she was drunk. And so she didn't even text us, congratulations on the wedding. Nothing. So it was like, I think it was like radio silent for like several weeks before that next flare up happened.
Yeah.
And
what was even weirder was at the wedding when she was really drunk, I was trying to stay away from her, but she kept on like cornering me or coming up to Donovan and I, and obviously very drunk, saying like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Like, you need to give me all your wedding photos. I'm going to put them on the wall. She was just like acting like really, really weird. And like, if you were truly that excited and that happy for us, like, then there would have been that same kind of like energy after the wedding too. But there was like nothing until the month after when we went over there and I got my cold sores, and then it just like went downhill from there.
it's super uncharacteristic for her too, because she used to, this ties into a bunch of other stuff, but make a narrative about my biological father and his drinking, which, he did drink a lot when we were young, but she like painted him as a villain because of how much he drank, and you're going to do that on our wedding day. It's just a little crazy to me.
So I looked through a lot of the comments, and one of the most asked questions was if Donovan noticed any of her behavior like before he was with me, or if he only started to notice like while we were together and I was bringing it to his attention.
That's a good
and
question.
I think it's like a little bit of both, but I'll let him explain.
To keep a long story short, our parents separated. My mom pretty much exiled me and my brothers from our like Mexican side of the family, and would like pretty much like punish us if we tried to communicate or even talk about it. Like we had to almost like pretend that they were never even a thing, which was hard for me because during that time I was like 12 or 13, and I spent my entire childhood with all my cousins and uncles and aunts, and the reason behind it was later to be found out to be a lot of lies, and my mom saying that my aunt said things about me which were just flat out lies that I learned after the fact. So I knew that she had the capability, but at the time going through that, I just believed that it had to do with the resentment toward my father, not so much that it was her characteristic as a person. And then like when I put everything together, even after the fact, it's probably just how she is, and that is how she is.
I think it came easier for him to accept over time as well, because the situations just got worse and worse and worse and worse and more escalated to where like the night where she tried to claim he was cheating on me when he got home from dropping me off, she was literally waiting outside for him and just started like yelling and screaming at him, and mind you, that whole situation happened because she tried to make me believe something that wasn't true.
Oh, I always knew that she had these capabilities. I just didn't know that she would be that way towards me or the person that I, chose. Sorry, it's kind of long. There's just a lot of questions.
A lot of people want to hear from this beautiful man.
So the second topic was how it affected me, like emotionally. And it still comes in waves, but I'm not trying to make it as long as the first topic, but it is very hard to come to terms with. But there's a confidence that you get knowing that you're building this protection for your family and you're putting them first, and you're not going to let these, just anybody walk all over them. Because that is like the biggest barrier for a lot of people going through this is, well, I just can't cut off my family. That's not fair to them. And I think it takes it back to, well, let's look at malicious intent. Is it intentionally harmful to my spouse or to my children? If the question or the answer is yes, then it's time for those hard boundaries. And I think that makes the decision easier to make. So, emotionally, it affected me in all kinds of ways, like, sadness, anger, grief. It's all those, because it is like you're grieving the loss of these people that as a kid you thought you always have in your life. And then when you go through these big milestones, you always thought that they'd be there, but they're not. And it's unfortunate and it's sad, and you're allowed to be sad about it, but you have to be firm in it. If you're like wavered in that decision, you could hurt your spouse or your children in the long run, which I'll get to later on.
I feel like the grief is even heavier for him because we're not only no contact with his mother, but all 5 of his siblings, just due to the way that she's manipulated them and how they've treated us in spite of that. That has made it even harder for him because we've always dreamed of having like a huge family, and now we are kind of only limited to like our little family now.
Even though that's a sad note, if you make that decision, now you have the opportunity to foster true love, true security with your children in hopes that they can carry on the dream of having that big family, or, kind of doing it right by you. So that's kind of what gets me through it. And like I said, I'll talk to on my conclusionary statement about that.
And personally, I'd rather grow my children up with a small family who actually love them and treat them well than have them go to family functions with like 30 people and just be treated like trash and feel like they're not enough by the time they're 6, which is a feeling that they should never have to feel. Our daughter was not going down for a nap, so she will be running around in the back.
Last point was what changed after we went no contact. And it's a lot, and all it is an adjustment. So, some of the other things, more specific things like holidays. I saw that in a bunch of comments, like how do you deal with the holidays with, the extended family? And so personally, we just have to be selective of that time. We're not drama people, so we don't want to talk about it. We don't talk about it. And we don't want to revisit the past. Like if one of them are there during the holiday, so we usually just don't. We'll try to go a couple of days earlier for like the grandparents or something. Another change with my brothers. Like Savannah was talking about, I did grieve like that loss, and that hurts. But it's one of those things that Savannah and I have, we tried. We invited them over multiple times afterwards because we did believe that it didn't have to be no contact with everybody, because our only boundary was with my mother. But that's just how it played out. So,
and like I said before, I would have been okay with his brothers meeting her. We just didn't want them to have our address, but they weren't interested in meeting us at all.
No questions, like nothing really. So I mean, that's just sad because she has a lot of uncles that she's probably not gonna know. So, but I wanted to end it with two of the positive things of what's changed, which is I'm more in touch with my Mexican family, which, like I said earlier, I was excluded from and pretty much exiled and banished by my mother, that I couldn't talk to her or anything. So
completely took that culture away from him.
Yeah, and I did grow up in Osabo kid, but I spent, it was like the dream childhood experience with my cousins that that relationship was just ripped from me. And that's something that I still grieve as an adult, 14, whatever years later. So I got that back now, and that's a good thing. The last thing how it affected it is security in our marriage. I built trust amongst Savannah, and Avi doesn't know it yet, but later on she'll know that
her daddy chose her.
That I picked them. And honestly, this was a big thing for me because I grew up a big people pleaser. Like that was, I had to make sure everybody was good, and that's probably because of how I was raised with them. But this kind of taught me that sometimes you can't please both sides, and that's okay. That isn't for me to figure out. That's not on me. So my biggest advice, or this is my conclusion statement, is an idea. The family you built, remember how you love them. I want my family that I built with Savannah to remember that I will always choose them, that they come first, no matter what. And on days that I start to get upset about the situation involving my mother and my brothers, there's an idea that I think of that helps me through that. And I'm going to look down because I wrote this out, and I think it's powerful because it's helped me personally when I'm alone and I'm thinking about this stuff. It kind of brings me back to baseline. I think of when my children tell their future friends or spouse about me, I would like them to describe how I put their mom and them ahead of everyone and everything, and that he took his role as the family protector seriously. And I think that just encompasses like the roles that a mother and father are supposed to have in a family. It starts with them. And I have to protect her in the ways that she has to protect me and the way that we protect our children. And if there's that malicious intent, if there's toxicity, if there's nasty, gross people in the family, there's no reason to subject our loved ones to those nasty people. They don't deserve that. And down the road, I don't want Avi to come to me at 22 years old when she's an adult asking me or telling me, these traumatizing stories that I could have avoided had I put that hard boundary and not subjected her to toxic or gross people. So that's the kind of thing that I run through in my head of this is the right decision because it protects my loved ones. And with that, that's kind of my story, or my side of this, given everything that Savannah's talked about. It's something that a lot of people go through that I didn't know about, but nobody talks about it. So hopefully with this series,
it's such an alone experience until you start to talk about it and then realize wow, it's actually way more common than you think. I literally have 2 friends of mine that have gone through this and I didn't even know about it until I started to speak up and talk about my story.
And for the wives or girlfriends who are wondering how they can get their husband or boyfriend along with their side, it's just going to take a lot of communication, a lot of vulnerability, and honestly, it's going to take communication amongst both sides. There is that level. There are people who aren't open-minded. They believe wholeheartedly that family is family no matter what, which is just not the case because you don't choose what family you're born into. There's a lot of family members that do a lot of nasty things to family members, a lot of, whatever. So it's up to you to decide and make those boundaries for what's best for your family and your children. So I would definitely, the biggest thing for getting husbands to realize what you're going through is going to be communication, and it's going to take a little bit of time.
Concludes our part 5. I want to thank everybody who has watched all my videos and followed along, because not only was it nice to see how many people can relate and how it helped other people, but it is extremely freeing to talk about it. I love a good story time as much as the next person, but this is also my real life. So as entertaining as it was for me to talk about it, it was also very healing. Again, thank you so much for listening to me, because these were all very long, so I can only imagine how long you sat there and just listened to me talk at 1.5 speed. I definitely continue to talk about this subject because I've learned a lot and I really want to help other women who have gone through this. So this is the last part of my series of telling the story, but I will definitely be still speaking on the topic. But as always, thank you for listening, and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.
All right.
Wow.
That was a good story time.
It was. I love that, you can love your family, but if it's going to cause your children to experience that same trauma, that same neglect, then you have to make that choice to, yes, choose the family that you created over the family that raised you.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta say, I agree with the husband for sure, 100%. I'm in the same boat when it comes to this type of situation. And this is what I think. I take it this way. I say that we are designed to go off and make our own life, our own family. The family that was created before you by your mother and your father, that was the family that they created. You had no choice in the people in that situation. You know what I'm saying? So your job, your goal is most of our goals are to go off, find a woman, find a wife, and have children and create your own family. Right now, it looks as though oh, we don't have family and we don't have no family for our kids. But at the same time, it's you forget that the most important people in your children's life is the mother and the father. No one's more important than that. In tradition, yes, you would love for them to have a grandmother, a granddad, a uncle, a auntie. But let's just keep it honest, y'all. Most of the essays and all these things that goes on in a lot of these families is caused by those people. I'm not saying that the dad and mom is not involved in most cases, but in most cases, I would say I would not in most cases, but they're more protected with their mom and father than with anyone else. You know what I'm saying? So I would rather my kids know that as long as we are together, even if it's not the original dad or original mom, as long as you keep a motherly figure or a fatherly figure that truly loves your children, that's all they need. That's all we need. We just need 1 or 2 people like mom. If I can't go to mom, I can go to dad. When you don't have mom and dad, that's when grandma, aunties, and cousins and all those have to play a part, because you just want that family experience. So I'm not knocking what they're doing. They're actually doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing, and that's how you find peace in this world. Not trying to please everyone. I used to think I was so cold-hearted. They make me out to be the black sheep of the family because I don't take the feelings he takes in consideration when it comes to my family, because I know it's not coming from a healthy mindset. I know that my family struggles with a lot of addiction, a lot of trauma. So I know a lot of the things that they say is just mostly projecting, so I know how it feels, but being a people pleaser like he is, I can understand why it's taking such a toll on him more, because you grow up with, you want to help and you want to be there for your mom, you want to honor your mother, you want to honor your father. But if these are the type of people that you have in your life and they don't even want the best for you, then how do you blame? I don't blame you. You got to do what's best for yourself and for your kids. But I do pray that one day your mom can get a softer heart. I hope that you guys can come together and just be a family. But until then, just keep doing what you're doing right now and just taking it day by day. Don't worry about it. Sometimes parents like to pressure you by saying, I won't be here for long. Well, neither would you. You don't know if you will pass before your mom or she'll pass before you, honestly, in this time of the day, in this type of world we live in. So I would say blessed to you guys, blessings upon you and your family. I wish you guys nothing but prosperity and, just love and patience when it comes to anybody that's involving you and your family. So, but yeah. You got anything else you want to
No. This is a beautiful story. I love how he supports his wife. Like, you don't see this often. A lot of people will stick it through to please their husband or please their wife, to be around these people that cause all this trauma. Just because this family.
Right. Right.
But it's like, I get what they're saying. It's like, you would rather support you would rather surround your children with people that love you and not people that just have that title, like grandma and grandpa. But if these are people that don't love you like family should, then why would you surround yourself with them? For the title, for the aesthetic? I just agree with everything they're saying. Like, they did it right. And before she got married, she let him know, I would not put my children through this. And at least, he let him know up front and he agreed. Because a lot of people will still put their children in that situation. And then, like you said, when they grow up 22 years later and they tell you this is what happened with X, Y, and Z, you can't blame anyone but yourself because you let your child be exposed to these people. So if you can stop it from the very beginning, like she told him before they got married, then do that. Sometimes you have to do that if that's the case, if these are the people that are in your life.
Yeah. That's all we got for today, Messy Family. Hope you guys are having a great day today. What's today? Wednesday. Hope you guys are having a great Wednesday. Blessings to you all. Hope you all having a great day. And if you guys are interested in following these creators, I will have them linked in the description. Well, I will have her linked in the description box below. I don't know if he has any social media. She said he doesn't do social media. So I will have her linked in the description box below in the credits section. So you guys can follow her directly on her TikTok account for more updates, okay? But that's all we have for today, Messy Family. Have a great day, and we will see you all in the next story time. Peace out.